Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa Poncha from Stemple Creek Ranch. And so, as you probably see in the schedule, my husband Lauren and I are both taking some different topics today and tomorrow. Tomorrow morning at the keynote, we're going to do a big overview of our entire business. This session is going to be a deeper dive into how we have slowly but surely layered different enterprises to create a overall healthy business. I want to start. Sorry, give me a moment here to fix my. Okay, so I want to start with just a little bit of background about who I am and who I'm not. It'll help you understand where I'm coming from and the opinions that I have. So my husband Lauren and I own Stemple Creek Ranch, but I'm not a rancher. I am a rancher's wife. I did not grow up in agriculture. I didn't study agriculture. I'm actually an attorney by background and I would say mostly self-learned entrepreneur over the last 20 years or so. Everything that Lauren and I do to run our business, we really just figured it out along the way by getting advice from people, having mentors, reading books. Definitely learned a lot of lessons the hard way, which I'll share some of that with you today. Lauren and I are very different, as maybe some of you already know. We have very different perspectives, different personalities. Sometimes that's hard. I'll talk a little bit about how many of you here run a business or are trying to run a business with a family member? Okay, yeah, not always the easiest thing. We do have a really good marriage counselor, so that helps. She might help you remotely if you want her name. But honestly, Lauren and I have said before that I actually think one of our biggest strengths is that we're both very different and we look at things really different. Yeah, it creates some tricky conversations, but it's definitely created some good opportunities for us. I'm having a little struggle with my monitor here. Can you come up here real quick so I don't have to suffer this entire program? So I want to need that little screen away so that I can read my notes. Way better. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to start off with some of our big overarching principles and philosophies that we've honed over the last 20 years of growing our business. We have three pillars of our business that we probably came up with about 15 years ago: honesty, transparency, and quality. And these we did not choose lightly. I mean, we really pondered it and thought about it. And one thing, when we talk about all of the different enterprises that we have, one thing that I really want to impress upon you is that we absolutely have had problems of doing too many things at one time or trying to do too many things, being all things to all people. And that doesn't work well. I mean, we've definitely had to take some moments at some times and say, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to do that anymore. This isn't working well. But one of the things that we've really tried to stick to is to decide what our principles are, what our goals are. And then whenever we're at a crossroads of, are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? We can go back to our underlying principles and use them to help us make a decision. One of those underlying principles, and this might sound super obvious, but it's not to everyone, and that is that our business has to be profitable. We, we support our family off of our business. We do not have outside investors. We have not taken on a lot of debt. We are in the San Francisco Bay Area, so we talk to so many people that's really surprising to them. Like, what? You don't have investors, you don't have this, you don't have that. I don't know if it's like the smartest thing we ever did or the dumbest, but we didn't. And that created an environment where we never had the luxury to not be profitable. And so it really forced us to make very careful decisions about what we were doing each year in our business. One thing that you'll hear me talk a little bit about later on this talk is that at I don't know, about 13 years ago, we bought the ranch that is next door to the ranch that Lauren grew up on. And that's actually one of the enterprises that I'm going to talk about. But when we bought the ranch, it has a mortgage on it. The seller holds the mortgage. And so, just one of our big picture overheads where we've really had to be thoughtful and creative with how we can create additional revenue streams on that ranch to help us not only for the health of our overall business, but also just to pay the mortgage. So quickly, just for a little bit of backdrop here, if you weren't in Lauren's presentation last session, but my husband is a fourth generation rancher. He's the baby in the top picture. And then the bottom picture is Lauren and his dad when he was in high school. And here's Lauren's immediate family. He's the youngest of 4 children. And here's our family. Our girls are teenagers now. They're 16 and 13. This year, Lauren and I will be married for 25 years. When you run a business together, that's really no small feat. We started our business 20 years ago, a little over 20 years. In 2005, we moved back to our county, which is Marin County, California, by sitting down with Lauren's parents and essentially asking them if they were ready to retire so that we could lease their pasture and start buying our own cattle so that we could start our business. And miraculously and amazingly, they said yes. And that is how we started. It was about another 4 years after that, in 2009, when we came up with the name Stemple Creek Ranch and created our logo and went from there. One thing I'm going to talk a lot more about in my session tomorrow afternoon is we, over the years, have collected an absolutely phenomenal team. One of our employees, Maddie, is here with us. Maddie, can you say hello? Maddie's been with us, I think, coming on 8 years. We hired her right out of college. The 3 of us all went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Go Mustangs. And as I'm going through these different enterprises that we have, I just want to be really transparent with you that there is absolutely no possible way that Lauren and I could have done all of this if we didn't. If we didn't really invest in surrounding ourselves with amazing people. And that in and of itself is a whole nother story and is very challenging, but also very rewarding. And I'm going to talk about that more in my session tomorrow afternoon, which is building and managing a team. So the first enterprise that I'm going to briefly talk about is our beef cattle. It's definitely our number one, by far our largest enterprise. About, I don't know, 17, 18, 19 years ago, we made a very intentional decision that we wanted to be a mission-driven organization and that we really wanted to try and find our own footing of doing it the right way. At first, we became all natural. We evolved into grass-fed, grass-finished. And I think it was in 2008, we first got organic certified. And one thing that we knew was that we, again, needed to be profitable. And we did not want to have a commodity product where we were waiting around for someone else to tell us what they were going to pay us for all of the work that we were doing. And we thought that we really needed to create a niche product in order to make that happen. Right around this time, Michael Pollan's book, The Omnivore's Dilemma, was really popular. Lauren read it one night. We had like an aha moment about what that might mean for us, and grass-fed, grass-finished. I think it was maybe a year or two later, he was on Oprah, back when Oprah was like all the rage. And when he was on Oprah, I remember thinking like, oh, wow, like maybe this is not just our tiny little Bay Area bubble. And we took it from there. So beef is definitely I would say our first love and our first passion. Ah, can you come back up here? I'm having that same problem with the screen. Thank you. So um, we now have several different actual businesses, like business entities. Our first business entity is Stemple Creek Ranch Inc. that we started, I don't know, almost 20 years ago. That entity houses and runs our livestock operation. It owns all the livestock. It's a tenant. It doesn't own any land. It has leases both from our own ranches, but also from many different ranches throughout Northern California. Thank you so much. um, and as you'll hear as we go on, we've gradually have created additional business entities. Um, if I knew then what I know now, I probably would have started with more than one business entity. But Stemple Creek Ranch is the entity that really runs our entire ranching operation. So we over the years we've grown our business by we bought the one ranch that I mentioned before. Particularly in Northern California, it's not exactly economical to try and grow a business by buying ranches. It's just not doable. So we've grown our business by leasing many other pastures and ranches throughout Northern California. I would say at any given time we have what, like maybe 18 to 20 leases. I'm going to have Lauren and Maddie chime in or heckle me when I say something wrong. We also work with cooperator ranchers who we essentially contract with um, for them to raise cattle for us to our specifications. Our second enterprise chronologically that we started was sheep. I mentioned at the beginning of my talk that I'm not a rancher and I did not come from an agricultural background, which has created some pretty interesting conversations between Lauren and I over the years. Sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's a curse, but it's definitely, I think, at times given me the opportunity to ask really dumb questions or make really silly demands like, oh, of course we could do this. Why not? Because I don't have all these preconceived notions that someone who has 20 or 30 years in the industry might. One of those was pretty early on. Lauren said to me, like, I hate sheep. I don't want to have sheep. They die, they're this, they're that. I just don't want to do it. And I was just like, you know what, babe, we've got to have some diversification. We got to have sheep. Let's just do it. Like, let's just make it happen. And Lauren's talk tomorrow afternoon, he and Maddie are going to talk about more of like the actual on ranch grazing and livestock management part of having all of the different classes of livestock. So for us, the multi-species grazing improves a lot and helps us with a lot of our soil health principles, some of which Lauren talked about today and he'll talk about more tomorrow. But each enterprise truly supports each other. And our third main livestock enterprise is pigs. So pigs are the newest. I would say we started pigs maybe what, like 5 years ago ish? Oh, 10, just kidding. Time is funny. Time goes by fast. The reason why we started raising pigs, again, not because Lauren was like, oh, I want to be a pig farmer. No, that definitely did not happen. But we had so many customers that were begging us for bacon. Literally, that is truly what happened. That finally, at some point, we were like, okay, we'll raise some pigs. And then slowly over the years, we've expanded the operation. They definitely add some diversification to how we manage our different pastures. Chickens, we do not raise chickens. Do we have any chicken farmers in here? Anybody? Okay. So we never wanted to take that on. For a while, years and years ago, we tried to find someone that would come raise chickens on our ranch and that we could basically help them start the enterprise. And we just never found the right person at the right time. And again, we just had so many people that were asking us for chicken, and we just felt like we already have all of these people that are buying 3 proteins from us. Why not sell them 4? And so what we did pretty recently, just a couple years ago, is that we partner with a chicken farmer, and they raise the chickens for us, and we're very transparent. You'll recall one of our 3 pillars is transparency. We are just very painstakingly careful that whatever we're doing, whether it's where the animals are, where they come from, who's raising them for us, where do they live, what do they eat, that we are just very upfront. It's on our website. Our staff at the farmers market is, educated and ready to talk about it. They don't. They are not on our pastures yet. I will say that last year in 2025, chicken breast was one of our top 5 top selling SKUs. So pretty wild. Our next enterprise is bees and honey. So we do not have bees. They are not ours. We work with an apiary from Northern California called Tauger Apiaries. They bring their bees to our ranch. It helps us with all these wonderful pollination type things. The bees are very happy. And they also private label honey for us. So here's an example where, when we're deciding what enterprises are we adding to our repertoire and what are we keeping or what are we not keeping, and we really try and go back and ask why, like, why are we doing this? Is this really adding value? What is this adding to the overall operation of Stemple Creek Ranch? So honey is one of these things. Are we making a lot of money on this enterprise? No, we're definitely not. But it definitely adds to the biodiversity of the ranch, which we love. We love being part of that system and that partnership with the apiary, and we love having the honey that has our brand on it, and people seem to really connect with it. Okay, so I mentioned earlier about how we bought the ranch next door. We call it the Burbank Ranch because the ranch was owned by the Burbank family for about 150 years. And, it might be unique or interesting that I'm considering this an enterprise, but for me and Lauren personally, it absolutely is. Growing up on the ranch next door, Lauren actually went to preschool on the property. The owner's wife ran a preschool, and Lauren and his sisters and all the neighborhood kids went to preschool there. He played in the pond. It has wonderful pasture, and it's right next door. And so this is one of those things where sometimes creativity is necessary to make something happen. And Lauren had said to the owner, I think he was maybe about 80 at the time, wrote him a letter, said, if there's ever an opportunity for me to buy this ranch, can you please just think of me and give me a chance? We didn't necessarily know how we would make that happen, but it was a dream. And years went by, and one day Lauren ran in to the gentleman, and his family was not in active agriculture and hadn't been for a long time. The ranch was very rundown, like very, and was not in good condition. And he said, hey, what would that look like if you were to try and buy this ranch from me? And so to say that Lauren, I want to say but to say that Lauren was excited is like the understatement of the day. He was like running around like a little puppy. But this is one of those areas where having someone to go for advice and having a good mentor makes all the difference in the world. We had a friend that Lauren had talked to and gotten some advice about this. And what we ended up doing was we did a 3-year lease option where we were paying a pretty high price to lease the ranch for 3 years. And of course, that was an ordinary business expense for us where we could write that off. And at the end of the 3 years, we pre-negotiated a deal where we were going to purchase the ranch. The seller was going to hold the mortgage and he could live there for a certain period of time for free. I don't remember. I don't know. Maybe it was 5 years from the purchase date. So 8 years into the deal. And we did it. And it was pretty scary, not going to lie, to take on that big of a liability, especially because the property, the buildings, and the infrastructure was incredibly run down. But we did it. It was like one of those moments where we took a leap of faith and we jumped. And it ended up to be one of the best decisions we've ever made. We actually purchased the property in 2013. And we, as you'll hear more on the next set of slides, we slowly over the years have put a ton of improvements into the property, and it has really truly become its own enterprise. I will also mention, because I'm trying to explain the different business entities here, but we purchased this ranch in a separate LLC. I don't know if you guys have those in the New England State Limited Liability Company. Okay. So this is like a global enterprise, but I'm saying the seventh enterprise is our meat company. So when we started selling meat, we sold it from a ranching company, and we developed essentially, two businesses within one business, the ranching operation and the meat operation. And on paper in QuickBooks, we would sell the carcasses to the meat company. Many years into it, so really less than a year ago, we actually spun the meat company into its own corporation, and that is called Stemple Creek Meat Company. But so all the way back in 2009 is when we came up with the name Stemple Creek Ranch. It's named after the creek that winds through our property. And we had someone design the logo for us and put up our first website. And our initial website, all it sold was whole beef, half beef, quarter beef, and whole lambs. And we did not know if we were going to get one order, but it was like, well, we'll never know if we don't try. So we put up the website. I was about 39 weeks pregnant with our first daughter when we launched the website. That was fun. And that's how we got started. And we would truly just wait. If people were buying quarters, we would wait until we sold 4, and then we would harvest 1 head of cattle. Not too long after that, so let me back up for a moment and say that our home ranch in Tomales, California is about an hour outside of San Francisco. So we're very fortunate to be in this very, booming metropolis of the San Francisco Bay Area. And in our county, we have a farmer's market at our civic center that's 2 days a week, year round, every Thursday and every Sunday. It's one of the biggest farmer's markets in the country. It's a true mecca. So many people go every Thursday or every Sunday, and they do all their grocery shopping. A lot of chefs shop there for their restaurants from throughout the Bay Area. And we never even had an inkling or an idea of even trying to get into a farmer's market, because we weren't doing any USDA certified cut and wrap. We were just selling quarters, halves, and wholes at this time. But the management, the nonprofit that runs this farmer's market, the Sunday market, called us, and I answered the phone, and they said, hey, we would love for you to join the Sunday farmer's market, which was shocking because I knew just from the industry that there's like a list, like a waiting list to get into the farmer's market. And I said, well, I don't understand. How do you even know who we are? And I thought there's a list, and, we're really surprised. We just don't know. And she was just like, listen, we know who you are. We know what you're doing. We really want you in the farmer's market. Can you do it or not? Quickly, they seriously wanted us that weekend. So at this time, I had a law practice that I was running. Lauren had a full-time corporate job. We had a toddler, or a baby at home. I think she was less than a year old at that point. And we were like, sure, we can do this Sunday farmers market. Why not? So for the first time, we figured out how to have some of our product USDA certified cut and wrapped for individual sale. And Lauren would work all week in his corporate job, and then he would pack a cooler in his car and go sit at the farmer's market all day Sunday. That's how we got started. And we still are at that same market, probably 17 years later, and it's phenomenal. It is just super successful. And again, we're very blessed that we just have this amazing farmers market culture where so many people come and shop at this one location. I think we do a total of 4 farmers markets now. Maddie, is that right? Sorry, I'm picking on you. Okay, yeah. The farmers market was just being there was also a catalyst to the next phase of our business, because we had chefs that were shopping there that were like, oh, I've been buying your meat to cook at home, but I would really like to buy it for my restaurant. And some of the very first restaurants that started buying from us because they met us at the farmers market were some of truly the most well-known restaurants in the Bay Area and the world. And it just was this amazing unintended consequence of us being there, and it's just opening the door for that opportunity. So one other thing about the meat company is, quite a while ago, I don't know, Lauren might remember the year, we had tried pretty hard for a couple years to sell to Whole Foods. And this was before Amazon bought Whole Foods. And in our area, I don't know if it was like this in New England, but there was one distributor that was really like a ranching enterprise that the North Bay Whole Foods would buy all of their grass-fed meat through this one distributor. So it was like, if we wanted to get into Whole Foods, we had to sell to this one distributor, and then they would turn around and sell it to Whole Foods. So it probably took us 2 years of like networking and knocking on the door and like trying to make it happen. And then finally they said yes, and they bought whole truckloads of grass-fed beef from us. We were super thankful. It was amazing. It was so exciting. They had our little picture and our logo in the meat case, and I think it was like 9 North Bay Whole Food stores. But just as we were so excited and we felt like we negotiated a really awesome price, we were very pleased with the deal. But Lauren and I looked at each other in the eyes, and we realized almost immediately that really what we needed to do was try and ditch Whole Foods and sell to a locally owned grocery stores, because we just felt like we didn't feel comfortable basing such a huge chunk of our business on this enormous company that at the end of the day, we didn't feel like they really cared about who we are and our brand. And it felt like it did not align with the brand. And this comes back to us really taking the time to even think about what our brand principles were. And because if we didn't think about it, then we never would have pondered that. Like, wait, is Whole Foods really the right partner for us, and why? And so there is there's a small locally owned grocery store chain in Sonoma County called Oliver's Markets. There's 4 locations, but they're like truly the creme de la creme grocery store of Sonoma County. And we tried to get into their butcher case. It took a long time, did not happen quickly, took probably another couple years if memory serves, but eventually they started buying from us. They are one of our very strong, very loyal, amazing customers. This picture with all the cool writing on it, they have in, I don't know if it's 1 or all 4, I forget, of their grocery stores, like enormous on the wall. Like you walk in and it's like a literal billboard in their grocery store. And that honestly just demonstrates, it's like a visual demonstration of their true dedication to the local product. They do some of their management team meetings out at our ranch. They bring their butchers and the folks that work at the store to come do education on our ranch. It's like a true example of how we have worked so hard to create actual partnerships with customers who deeply care about us and our product. And if any of you were in the last session with Lauren and Maddie, that is a tool of how we've built our wholesale business, because when we have to raise prices, we sit down with them, we explain why, we're transparent, we're honest, we approach them, we have a conversation, and they figure out how to pay the price. And it's been a really beautiful partnership. So we sell our meat in a variety of different ways, as you picked up from the different things that I'm discussing. Wholesale, we sell to grocery stores, we sell to restaurants, we sell to different, food service outlets. We mostly sell direct from us. Like, we have a wholesale team. Maddie is a member of it. To a much smaller extent, we do sell some wholesale product through distributors, but it's pretty limited. That's like another decision that maybe some people would rightly think that we're so crazy that we did not begin and grow our business using distributors. I would say that stems from control, wanting the control of the product, of the relationship, and of the quality control. And we truly want to wow our customers at how awesome our customer service is. And that doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes. Of course we do. But we want them to know that, if they're buying this huge volume of product for their grocery store or their restaurant, or they're proudly putting our name on their, either California-wide or worldwide famous menu, we want them to know that like their relationship with us is pure and whole, and that they could truly pick up the phone and talk to us. As I mentioned, we also sell at the farmers markets. And then thankfully, before COVID, I want to say, again, it was maybe 10 years ago, but Lauren or Maddie will raise their hand if I'm totally off on my timelines. But we started selling individual cuts of meat online, where, we'll pack a box and ship it to you. And actually, my kids were toddlers at the time. So it was, at least a good 10 years, maybe even 15 years ago, because I recall that Lauren and I on a Friday night, this is like totally the idea of a great Friday night date, is we would go to our little tiny baby warehouse, and our kids would crawl around on the floor, and we would pack boxes of meat that we're going to ship out on Monday morning. And really, we did it because we were cutting the meat for individual sale for the farmers market, but then we had leftovers. Like, of course, you don't sell every single piece at the farmers market. And so we were like, well, how are we going to sell these other cuts? And so we started at the bottom, and we figured out how to buy, insulated shipping boxes, dry ice, all of the materials, figuring out the, shipping account with the carriers, which is a whole other ball of wax. And we started our online sales business. Here's just a little snippet of our website. And then here, I'm just going to flip through these slides a little quickly. It's just showing you some visuals of some of our different products. You'll see in the top, we have some non-perishable products. We have beef jerky. We also have beef sticks. I think that's tallow on the bottom. You can see our ground beef bricks. Some of the grocery stores that we work with, they buy the CPG packaging, so it's like a grab and go situation. Some of the grocery stores that we work with purchase box beef, and then they, cut it in the actual butcher case. Some of our swag. And then just this last year, we partnered with a local gal who makes tallow beauty products. And she's private labeling some awesome tallow balm, which is a fun little add-on. Any questions at this moment before I move on? Yes. Like when you like, would an example be this gal that makes the tallow products? Oh, right. Very good question. I would say, and this is something I'm going to echo tomorrow when I talk about managing, hiring, and managing a team. My mantra is hire slow and fire fast. And I would say that's our same mantra when it comes to like creating a partnership. If, you know, we don't have that many partners, and there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is because we want to be extremely careful in the partnerships that we create, and very thoughtful. I would much rather take years to decide if a partnership is the right partnership than to jump into it and then have it not work. Does that mean that there's some opportunities that we've missed, because we didn't just jump in? Absolutely. That's okay. I mean, I don't know that we've ever had like a formal partnership that didn't work. There's definitely, like we've had times like we had someone who, it's funny, I feel like I have to be a little careful about what I'm saying because I'm being recorded right now. There, there's someone that raised cattle for us at one point a long time ago, and that relationship did not end up working out. It was stressful at the time. We grew through it, and that was okay. It was a learning experience. Like not everything is going to work out perfectly. And you guys might roll your eyes at me because I'm a lawyer and that's annoying, but like I like to make carefully analyzed decisions. And yes, that drives Lauren nuts sometimes, but it pays, I think, a lot of times to really think through, and not just in the actual agreement. I mean, the agreement can be on a napkin if you want it to be on a napkin, or there doesn't even have to. I mean, I think it has to be in writing. It doesn't have to be complex, I guess is what I'm saying, but it does need to be really carefully thought out, both of like what you're going to gain, what the risks are, and does it align with your principles? And again, you have to know your principles and your pillars to even know how to compare it and to decide if it fits. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's a really good question. So our first entity was Stemple Creek Ranch Inc. It's a corporation. And for many years, it was both our ranching enterprise, like the livestock and the leases, the land leases and everything. And it was also the entity where we sold meat. So to like restaurants, grocery stores, farmers markets, it had all of our employees, the whole shebang. Um, Probably for easily 5 years, I really wanted to separate them into two entities. And I finally did it in 2025. It was kind of painful. And, it was a lot of work. Like, if you think about it, like new entity, new bank accounts, new billing, new finance, like new everything, new payroll. It was a lot of work for our team. But there was a lot of reasons that we felt were so worth it for us to do it. And just to touch on a couple of them, one of them is because Lauren and I are now 20 years into this business. I'm 49, he's 51. Like, we don't necessarily need to be the only owners of our meat company forever. We would love to maybe bring in some of our team. We would maybe like to just like open up some creative opportunities for the future. One thing, we hired a general manager for our meat company about 2 years ago, Connor Hackett. He's phenomenal. And he has so many aspirations and dreams for our meat company, which we're super excited about, to serve other, more ranchers, more proteins, like, to really even be more of a service provider in the regenerative agriculture community that we're in. And he's younger than us and maybe has more energy than us at this point, and we're like, okay, let's create some flexibility. And so it gives us more flexibility for the meat company, so that the meat company can maybe end up not having the same same restrictions as our ranching company. Yep. Yes. Yep. Any other? Yes, right here.
I wanted to ask if you have your own delivery team or if you outsource or
Yeah. Okay. She asked. had a mic, so I don't need to repeat. So this is another, maybe a really stupid thing that we did. I don't know, but you might notice a theme because it all comes back to control and like quality assurance. We don't do all of our own delivery, but we do a lot of it. Somewhere in these slides, I'll show you like our first refrigerated van that we bought and like did a whole wrap. It was like so exciting. I don't know, that was probably like 10 years ago. I think we now have 3 refrigerated delivery vehicles. Is that right? So yeah, we have like a whole warehouse team. How many times did someone tell us that it's like the stupidest thing to buy our own vehicles and to have our own delivery drivers, and there's so much risk and there's so much overhead costs? Like, yeah, it's all right. Like, they're totally right. There's a lot of risk, there's a lot of overhead costs, there's a lot of moving pieces. But we just felt like for our brand and our brand values that's what we wanted to do. Was there another hand? Okay. Okay, so now we're moving on to more of like the agritourism part of our enterprises. And this enterprise is our ranch stays. So on our home ranch in Tamales, we have 4 different properties. 2 of them are little cabins, and then 2 of them are houses. I'll show you. The first one, which is, we call it the cabin. It's that red building in the photo on the right hand side. This was on the ranch that was extremely in disrepair when we purchased it. And Lauren and I don't live on the ranch. We live in town about 40 minutes away. And we really wanted a place to stay when we were there for our family. We had, 2 little ones at the time. And so we redid the cabin, kept as much of the old original, like 200-year-old character as we could. It was like all original redwood, but we had to put in plumbing and electrical and a sleeping loft and a bathroom. And Lauren went to an antique store or something and bought this clawfoot tub without telling me. And then we literally had to design the whole entire cabin around the clawfoot tub. And then I think the most expensive thing that we had to purchase was the hardware to go on the clawfoot tub. Can you tell that I'm still annoyed? Babe, that was a great decision. This is the inside of the cabin. Oh, and look, there's a clawfoot tub. I mean, it is adorable. So really, we did it at the beginning so we would have a place to stay. But then I was so stressed out over how much money we paid to rehabilitate this tiny little studio building. And this is like a very typical pattern in our business and in our marriage. Maybe some of you can relate to this, but Lauren said, maybe we should put it on Airbnb and see if we can like make some revenue from it. And I was like, oh, that is a great idea. And I'm pretty sure within 7 days, I had taken pictures, I had built, got our account, built the page, posted us on Airbnb, and had our first guest coming to stay. And Lauren was like, oh, I didn't know we were actually going to do that. I was just like chit-chatting about it. But the first guy that came to stay was a local. We get a lot of locals. He lived in San Francisco. He was also an Airbnb host, and he was so sweet, and he was completely overcome by how lovely it was and how he loved the ranch. And he was like, this is so perfect. You're going to be so successful. And he gave me some really good pointers. And it really fueled us to continue on these projects because, of course, not only it brought in revenue, which we could then use the revenue to reinvest in the property, but it also became its own enterprise that fuels our other enterprises. Because if you think about it, all of the people that come and stay on our ranch, like a lot of them have no idea who Stemple Creek Ranch is. Some of them don't even know that there's local food being grown in Marin County. And quite frankly, maybe they don't care. But it really was the opening the door of this whole other part of our business where our whole agritourism repertoire, I'll say, of enterprises, as you'll hear on the next slides, really is the guerrilla marketing for our meat company. Yeah. I believe in having really good insurance, and that's what we do. And there is risk. This is like another area where people think we're so crazy because you'll see as I go on to all of our different agritourism enterprises, we have a ton of people on our ranch all the time. And like, knock on wood, I'm a little superstitious right now, but someone knock on wood for me right now. Thank you. We have been extremely lucky, but also I still, all these years later, I am the person who monitors our potential bookings 24 hours a day. I'm not bragging about that. It's a little psychotic. I do not allow direct automatic bookings. Like, I have to personally screen every single person that books to come stay at our ranch. And if I feel one iota strange or weird or not 100% excited for this person to come, I just say, sorry, we're not available, delete. And we've had very positive experiences for 99.9% of our visitors, but we're also very well insured. This is what we call the writer's cottage. It's a tiny little studio. It was like a woodshed. And do you see how tiny it is? It has an outdoor shower in the backyard. And it's our highest occupancy on the ranch. It's booked a lot. People adore it and they come back and back and back and back again. So this we call the schoolhouse because this is where the preschool was, where Lauren and his sisters and all the neighborhood kids went to preschool. It's a two bedroom, 1.5 bath. And then the Grand Dame, this is what we call Zia's farmhouse. So this is actually on the ranch across the street from us, which was the first ranch that Lauren's great grandparents first worked on and then bought when they immigrated from Italy in the late 1800s. And Lauren's great aunt, Zia Carey, so Zia is aunt in Italian, Zia Carey lived in this house her whole life. She died, 25 years ago, I would say. And we had long-term tenants in the house for about 20 years. It was completely trashed, like scary trash, like smelled like really, 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 really bad. And a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we decided to take on the project of gutting the entire house, like fixing the foundation, the electrical, the plumbing. There was no framing in the walls. We had to like open up every wall. It was probably a year of work before it got to like the fun stuff. But it was extremely meaningful and felt really good in terms of the Poncha family legacy to restore this house to I wasn't there, but I would like to think to its like original beauty and charm and just like beautiful meeting space on the ranch. One thing I'm just going to touch on here, and I'm going to talk a lot more about this tomorrow, but we do also have houses on the ranch that we have employees that live in. So we try and balance, we try and use every building to its like highest and best use. So very close to this house, to Zia's farmhouse, we have a little house where we have a family that lives in, and the husband of the family is our main livestock manager. I think he's been with us for pushing almost 20 years, maybe 17 or 20 years. His wife helps us with a lot of our cleanings and flipping our stays and our houses. And it's just an example of that's like a really tricky issue. Like, one, we want their family to stay working for us and living on our ranch because obviously that benefits us that they're there. So it's great for us that they both have income that we can provide. And we live, this ranch is out in the country. It's not the easiest to find a cleaning person who's available at the, drop of a hat on a random, Wednesday at 11 a.m. or, on the weekends when we're doing really quick turnovers for all of the people that come and stay. And so is it perfect? No, but it's pretty darn good. Just like the system that we have on site. Yeah. We are very generous in every aspect, and I'm going to talk a lot more about that in my talk tomorrow about hiring and managing teams. This is the inside of Zia's farmhouse. The other thing about these houses that we have on the ranch, so of course, all the people that come and stay, they get a little message. It's like, oh, if you want to buy our products, we'll have it waiting at the house for you when you arrive. So a lot of people that had no idea who we are then buying our products and trying it. And every house has its own little grill and they have this like lovely experience. We also use them as tools for our wholesale customers. So we invite all of the grocery stores and the restaurants that we work with, come do an event, come to a ranch tour. We'll do education for you on the ranch. Come stay over, bring your family, bring your team and we'll barbecue and have it, and serve burgers for you. And it's absolutely been very valuable for our marketing and relationships. Who's heard of Hip Camp? Does anyone have Hip Camp campsites on their ranch? Okay, so Hip Camp, actually, it was the gal that founded the company lives in our county. It's like an Airbnb, but for campsites. They're all over the world. We honestly barely scratched the surface with what we could do with camping, but I started it during COVID when we couldn't rent out our houses and we couldn't do events. And I honestly almost felt like it was like community service for all these people that were cooped up inside, but people were allowed to go camping. And so I just threw up 2 spots on our ranch. And honestly, we even move technically the campsites around sometimes depending on the time of the year. But we do have people that get on Hip Camp. Some of them bring like a trailer or an RV, and some of them really just bring a tent that they put up, and it's great. So the next enterprise is weddings. We have a large barn on the property that, along with everything else, was in serious disrepair. But as we were gaining sort of confidence and excitement, as we were we kind of went around the whole ranch, like one building at a time. And we kind of looked at the barn and we were like, oh gosh, this is really scary, but this is the next step. And we did quite a bit of work to it. And I knew nothing about the wedding industry or the event industry for that matter. So it definitely felt terrifying. But what we did is I had an acquaintance who was engaged to get married. And I knew she didn't have like this enormous budget. And so I just said to her, like, hey, do you want to get married in our barn? We're working on it right now. I don't know what kind of shape it's going to be in by, next summer or whenever her date was. But you can do it for free. And because we just want the photos, to use for marketing collateral. And she said yes. And so that was how we got into the wedding business. It was a slow start. I can't say enough how scary it felt at the beginning because we spent so much money on the barn fixing it up. So we did her wedding for free. And then I feel like we maybe did 3 or 4 weddings for like a tiny, very small amount of money, like really anything to just book the wedding so that we could like start the momentum and get the photographs that we could use for marketing the space. And that was in 2016. So that was 10 years ago. This is, as you can imagine, a whole nother area where now we have hundreds and hundreds of people that come to our ranch. Again, most of them have no idea who we are. They maybe, care nothing about local food or local agriculture, but they come to our ranch to go to a friend or a family member's wedding. And then they know about us, and then they know about our neighbors, and then they go to the little, cafe down the street and buy products from them. We've definitely had a lot of people that are like, oh, well, I found you because my next door neighbor got married at your ranch 5 years ago. It's been a really great part of marketing for the meat enterprise. So this is an area, one thing that Lauren and I have tried hard to do over the years is to recognize that like we don't have all the skills, and we really like to surround ourselves with people that are better than us and people that challenge us to be better. And we initially hired someone to come live at a little house on the ranch and to really help us create and develop the wedding venue. She stayed for a few years and then she moved on, and then we hired the next person, and the next person that we hired is still with us. I think it's been maybe 8 years, and she had not a background in floral design, in landscape design, in events, and in many different skills that we absolutely did not have. And so that has really, it's really helped us develop and grow. And as you can imagine, especially as social media has exploded, that has really changed the dynamic of marketing, as you all know. At the very beginning of our meat company, I had one of our babysitters came to me and was like, Lisa, you guys really need a Facebook page. And I was like, I have no idea what Facebook is. What are you talking about? And, that was the beginning of our Facebook page. And in the early days, it was every time someone would come to our ranch and post about it on Facebook, we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. We can't believe this is happening. But, the wedding industry now is so visually centered, and, Instagram and TikTok and all of that. I mean, it's just, I think it's really phenomenal what it's done for the overall business. We also do other types of events. So we do corporate events. This is a smaller corporate event that we did in 2025. It was a group that came to us. It was a sustainability group at like a major consulting firm. And we were thrilled, to have them come. And they spent the day and they did their series of meetings in the barn. We don't do our own food service, so we work with a bunch of local caterers, and we partnered with a local caterer that day who did the lunch. And then you can see as everybody sat down at the beautiful table for lunch, they had a Stemple Creek hat on their plate, and they had a thing of beef jerky and beef sticks and all sorts of little swag for them to take home and hopefully be casual reminders to be customers for life. There's the inside of the barn. We have done truly countless ranch tours and educational events on the ranch over the years. I would say for the first 5 years or so, or maybe even more than that, they were free. And we would just post them on our website, post them on social media, have a sign at the farmer's market. And Lauren and I, me with like a baby strapped to my chest, would just show up on the Saturday or the Sunday morning, and we would grill little tasters on the barbecue and walk people around and tell them what we were doing. And that was like truly phase one of our marketing. That was it. And, people told us, like, you guys, you have to charge. Like, you can't do this for free. But I was like so scared that if we charged, people wouldn't come. And it took years for me to like get over that and to actually charge people to come. Even now, when we do charge for public tours, we charge a pretty nominal amount. We're not looking, this is absolutely not a money making enterprise. It is just a way of bringing people into our community and into the fold and to share with them what we're doing. This is one of our tours this last summer. But it's awesome. I mean, we have 20 somethings from San Francisco that come because they're just like interested. They're interested in what we're doing. We have other people in agriculture come. We have families that are really just looking for something fun to do on a Sunday that's like interesting and inviting. All sorts of different things. This, I think this was the grass-fed exchange several years ago that some of you might have been at. And then we also do our own farm to table dinners. Actually, maybe I'm saying that with the wrong slide. The picture that you're looking at was not a farm to table dinner that we produced on our own. Have you guys heard of the organization Outstanding in the Field? Okay, super fun. You can see their like trademark long table in our field. They've done dinners at our ranch, I don't know, a small handful of times over the years. Um, and but these photos are dinners that we have produced. We do at least one like pretty formal farm to table dinner in our barn every year, sometimes more. Sometimes they're bigger, sometimes they're smaller. We partner with local chefs that we work with. And this is also not an enterprise that itself is revenue generating, but this is like relationship building, experience building, something that we really use to create phenomenal wow factor. The chefs, we are so lucky to be where we are because the different chefs that we've partnered with over the last 10 years or so that we've been doing with are like truly world-class chefs. And we have so many people that come and buy tickets and they're like, I mean, I thought the food was going to be good, but I had no idea that it was going to be this level of an experience. And it's just, a little bit of that connection that we're creating with all of these folks. And we have people that will write in, that will email us or write on social media that are like, when's your next farm dinner? I want to make sure I get it. Make sure it's on my calendar. We have this big fun event size barbecue that we use. And we also let all of the caterers that do all the weddings and the corporate events use, because again, it's just like still one more cool branded marketing tool for all of these events. One potential enterprise that I'm going to briefly share with you is that there's another ranch in our area that we perhaps maybe are going to start partnering with them to do events on their property. And the only reason why I mention that is because if anyone would ever have told me 10 years ago that I was going to, be considered to have the expertise to create another event venue somewhere, I would have absolutely thought you were so crazy. But, it's just something we learned. I mean, we truly learned it the hard way, like one event at a time. We slowly, every year would tighten our rules or change our contracts with all these events and raise our prices. To make it what we really hoped it would be. And whether this does or does not happen with this other ranch, it's just an example of like keeping an open mind about how you can generate revenue and have, collaborative enterprises that add to your organization as opposed to like sucking the life out of you, if that makes sense. And just here in the last few slides, I want to touch on our team. So I briefly mentioned at the beginning, of course, there's no way that we could have explored all of these options, made all the mistakes and found, the different pockets of success that we have without truly finding and retaining good people, honestly, its own whole enterprise. I mean, it's its own whole ball of wax. Oscar, who I was mentioning, who's our main livestock manager, that's him with one of his like 5 dogs in the bottom left. And in the photo on the right in the warehouse, so the guy in the middle, the taller, that's Connor Hackett. That's our general manager, who is phenomenal. And then there's Maddie on the right with me and Lauren. And I think Lauren might have mentioned this already, but we just leased a new warehouse space in Petaluma, which is like the bigger town near our small little town. It's about 15 or 20 minutes away from our home ranch. It's 13,000 square feet. It's a huge jump for us. Like it's like a major next step for Simple Creek Ranch. We have a huge walk-in refrigerator, walk-in freezer, dry warehouse, office space, conference room, kitchen space. Like it's truly a very exciting development for us. And so that was a very exciting moment where we snapped that picture with Connor and Maddie of next steps for us. And here's some more of our team in front of Zia's farmhouse. So that is it. Do we have any other questions? Or how am I on time? Are we okay on time?
You're great.
Okay.
We've got 20 minutes to take questions.
Perfect.
I just had a question more about you started you said you had a or you were a lawyer, and then also Lauren was working off farm.
Yes.
When did you transition to only
Good question.
Yeah.
Okay, so in 2013 we went to the Ranching for Profit school. I swear we are not paid affiliates of Ranching for Profit. We are just it honestly changed our life. Like, it was just a really phenomenal experience. You know, at that school, when we went for the week, is when, I mean, we already knew, but we really knew after that, like, Lauren really had to quit his job. And but you know, he had golden handcuffs. He had like this awesome corporate job, but he was traveling a lot, and it was really hard for me and our family and our little kids at the time. But he quit his full-time job, I think, in 2014. Does that sound right? Around then. I still practice law, believe it or not, but I've really done it part-time forever, you know, since for the last 20 years. I have always done my legal work part-time and my Stemple Creek Ranch part-time. And again, like, maybe not the smartest thing, and I'm not bragging at all. I'm like confessing. I am like a true workaholic. Like, I love working. And so I don't know that I would advise that for, you know, non-crazy people. But it definitely, I think for sure for me, lawyering has definitely helped me be a business owner, and being a business owner has definitely helped me lawyer. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So our rainy season usually starts in October and ends in like April, I would say. We do get rain. I have no idea how many inches of rain we get a year, but my consultant 38. My consultant says 38. We don't do very many events in our peak rain months, and so that's why you don't see them in photos. We have absolutely done weddings in November, December, January, February, and we've had rain on some of those days, and it's worked out great. We had one wedding where it was a light rain, and they still did the ceremony outside, and they gave every guest a clear umbrella, and they just did it in the rain. It actually was really cute, and the pictures turned out adorable. We had one wedding in a February where it rained, and it was a small enough group that they ended up doing the ceremony and the reception in the barn. So yeah, we use some creativity to make it happen.
All right, now the serious question.
Yeah, please.
You said you hire slow, fire quickly. Could you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to elaborate on it for an hour tomorrow afternoon in my session.
I'm going to be giving sleigh rides tomorrow.
So but okay, so I watch the video for tomorrow, but I'll take like 1 minute to elaborate. So hiring is so hard. It is very tricky. It is not for the faint at heart. But if I think there's someone that I want to hire, you know, I wouldn't necessarily make the decision just on a 1-hour interview. Like, depending on what I'm hiring them for, I might be like, hey, we have this event at the ranch on Saturday. Do you want to come help? I'll pay you for the day. And let's just like, you might hate it. Like, let's just like see how it goes. Okay. If I'm hiring for my law firm, I might be like, hey, I'm going to give you this project to do, a writing project. And guess what? I'm not greedy. So I'm going to pay you for your time. But it's a test. Like, it's a test, you know? So in addition to reference checks and background checks and an interview and maybe another interview and then maybe a third interview, and then I'm going to have you meet people on my team, and I'm going to have Maddie, you know, take you for coffee, and then I'm going to have someone else take you on a ranch tour, you know, for a couple hours. Like, we're going to kick the tires, basically. And I'm not going to make the decision quickly. I mean, have I made the decision quickly in the past and then regretted it? Absolutely. I've made plenty of hiring mistakes. But on the back end, if you have someone on your team and you know in your heart they're not the right fit, then it's hard. Okay, we would all be psychopaths if we did not hate letting go of someone. It's hard. Like, it's never an easy thing. You feel bad. It's uncomfortable. It's conflict. Like, it's a terrible thing to have to let someone go. But if you manage them properly, like if you actually actively manage them, if you talk to them about their performance, and if you have a written job description, and if you actually pay attention to how you're managing them, when it comes time that you realize that this is just really not the right person and you have to let them go, A, they're not going to be surprised. And B, even if it is going to be hard, and even if they're, so clueless that they are going to be surprised, you've just got to do it. Because keeping someone on your team who's not effective, the only thing they do is bring everybody else down. And so I would much rather have a smaller team than have people on the team that are not effective.
Oh, I hope you don't mind. I would just love to share that what you just described, that interviewing process in which an applicant comes and spends the day and does a little work, is pretty common practice for hiring folks with intellectual differences or people on the spectrum. And it's really effective for both employer and employee.
Awesome. That's great. Yep.
Somebody else.
Hey, so maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was not in livestock, but I was crop farming out in the Central Valley. So near Davis, like probably, I'm guessing like an hour or so from you. And we came up against a lot of challenges, primarily which were environmental. So it was a really like hot, dry year that year, and it was forecast to get worse over the ensuing years. Obviously really high like energy, fuel, other utility costs being California. So there were a lot of like location-based challenges that made things really, really hard. And I guess I'm wondering, I'm not sure where you are, if it's the same as within the Central Valley environmentally. I imagine that it's not, it's a lot greener. But if you could just speak to that, like what is it like to ranch out in California in the face of those like economic and climatic conditions? And do you think they're going to get better or get worse?
Ooh, good question. So we are very different from the Central Valley. We're on the coast. So we're like, I don't know, 10 miles from the ocean. We're right on Highway 1, the coastal highway of California. I mean, California is a very challenging state to do business in. It's, taxes are high. There's a lot of business regulation. There's a lot of employment law regulation. The cost of living is very high. And so, yeah, that means if we want to hire and retain good employees, we have to pay them a livable wage. One of the things that I'm going to talk about more tomorrow is that we've tried to be really creative and thoughtful about how we create jobs for people that they really, truly want. And that's not only about money. I mean, honestly, I can't, I can speculate and compare about doing business in other places in the country, but of course I don't know. I'm a lifelong Californian. But I also think there's huge benefits that we have that are really unique. And I like to think that it all works out in the end. I mean, some businesses leave California and go to Texas or go to Oregon or, go to Wyoming or somewhere else. And I totally get that. And it has to work for your business. But if we were not in the San Francisco Bay Area, an hour or 90 minutes outside of downtown San Francisco, we would not have been able to pull off the guerrilla marketing and the growth of our direct-to-consumer business without having all of those people right in our backyard. And so, there's a lot of benefits as well. Yeah.
Speaking as one workaholic to another, I struggle with working 7 days a week most of the year and extremely long hours. I wonder if you could comment on how I don't have a good word for it, but how do you pay for yourself? How do you value your time? How do you, that sort of idea?
Brilliant question. So this also, I'm ad nauseum, comes back to the ranching for profit principles, which is, working in the business versus working on the business. And Lauren and I are both workaholics, and so we both suffer from the same affliction that you do. But we, and sometimes we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and like have a little talk, right? Like, but we truly discuss and talk about, not only with ourselves, but with our team. Like, is this like a $20 an hour project or a $200 an hour project? Because if it's a $20 an hour project and I'm doing it, okay, maybe I'm doing it because I like it or because I enjoy it or because I really want to do it because it's really teaching me something about our business that I think is helpful for me to know, before I'm going to pass it on to someone else. Or maybe it's because I'm stuck in my ways and I'm just doing it. Like, okay, but at least be honest with myself and make a decision that I'm still doing this working in the business task. The other thing is that honestly, in, I don't know, maybe the last 3 years or so, Lauren and I have really more than 3 years, but we actually do take a lot of time off and we do take a lot of vacations and we do take time away from our business. I think in agriculture businesses, it's perhaps unique that we don't live on the ranch. We live 30 miles away. And, there was moments in the last 20 years where we thought about moving to the ranch. And honestly, we flopped back and forth of who wanted to and who didn't and, whatever. But I think that's also been a blessing for us because we really do leave and go home. That has been helpful. But also really the straight talk of like, life is short, and we don't want to miss out on opportunities of living our life and traveling and going to our kids' soccer games and just even doing nothing. I mean, one thing of me not growing up in agriculture that is a really interesting perspective, at least for me, is that I think a lot of agriculture families have this value that like relaxation is like lazy. And I just don't. Like, I think that's totally toxic. And yeah, I bust my ass and I wake up early to go exercise and I, do this. And will you find me on my laptop late at night? Absolutely. But I also am not going to feel guilty to, lay down and read a book or go for a hike or go to the beach or, take off on a Wednesday just because I want to. And we absolutely do those things. And I actually think for people that struggle with that, I almost think it's like a psychological thing of like, you have to give yourself permission and understand that like, you're not winning everything. You're not winning anything by working 7 days a week. No one's ever going to be on their deathbed and say, oh, I wish I would have worked more.
Yeah, it just seems like you've probably tried a lot of different things, but I'm just trying to figure out how you guys market so many different products. Like, what business to consumer kind of softwares do you use to manage those transactions?
Ooh, that has been a challenging journey. For a long time, we used an inventory system called VistaTrack, and we thought we were so amazing and cool when we started using it. And I honestly never used it myself, so I can't really tell you a lot about it, but that's how we managed our warehouse and our SKUs. And just recently we ditched VistaTrack and we started working with Food Connects. And if you want to know anything about that, Maddie would have to be the one to talk to you about it because I have zero knowledge of that. We use QuickBooks for accounting. We rely on people that know what they're doing. We've hired people through the years that have experience in the meat industry, experience in consumer products. I mean, has there been like a million things that we've just like fumbled around to try and figure out on our own? Absolutely. But we've also tried to engage with people that know more than we do.
We used BioLinks like way back when. It was a Canada company. And if I was going to be in the meat business, knowing what I know now, I think the very first thing I would do would be to get a good software program to handle inventory and handle what's that thing that like direct to consumer stuff like Shopify and all that
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah, our website is run on Shopify.
There was a question about whether you do exit interviews or not for the people that you let go.
It really depends on the person. I mean, we as an organization, I prefer to over communicate. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know that we've had a lot of situations where people either voluntarily leave or we, tell them they're leaving when there's not a lot of conversation and discussion about everything. What could we have done better? What could you have done better? But those conversations are totally inappropriate to only happen at the end. Like they've got to be happening all along.
With so many different enterprises at this point, is beef still your primary? Or
yes.
Okay, not
it is.
Tourism.
No, it's actually really interesting, and that's a really good question because if you just look at our revenue, beef is by far number one. Like it's not even close to anything. But the revenue that we bring in through agritourism, like the ranch stays and the weddings and the events, like it's really good income. And it makes a difference. But honestly, the real difference is that we're not paying, $500,000 a year on like Google ads or something. Like that's where the real magic happens. We've spent very little money on paid marketing. I mean, we have, but it's been like very tiny. Again, maybe we should have spent more, but we didn't.